Good morning from London. It's the morning of the London Marathon. Jane and I are running it today. Conditions looking good so far. Nice and cloudy, fairly mild, a little bit of a breeze, nothing too bad. Going to be an interesting race today. I've not got the training in the legs to go and hit a PB attempt here. I've only done one long run since Valencia for various reasons, so I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to run hard and try and log a good time. I'm going to go out with some friends at around 2:40 pace, and in an ideal world, I'll be able to speed up a bit in the second half, or I might just have to walk, and that pace will be too much. But we'll see. I mean, I've been able to train quite well the last few weeks, and I'm feeling quite fit and fast again. I just haven't got anything long in my legs, and that's probably what's going to tell. However, it will be a good chance to test gear as always, and the main thing I'm going to test today is the Nike Vaporfly 3. It's a shoe I'm reviewing at the moment. I'm really loving it, probably more than I even expected so far for kind of short races, some decent workouts I've done on the road and the track, and it'll be really interesting to test. I do think it's a bit softer, more cushioned and comfortable than previous versions of the Vaporfly, and that would really come into play in the marathon, of course. So I want to see how it feels in that last 10k in particular. So yeah, looking forward to running in that today. I've also got a couple of watches on, the Forerunner 965 and 265. So I'm going to be checking out the GPS on those, battery life on those. I charged them both to full before bed last night. So I'll be taking manual 5k splits just to see how they handle the GPS around London, which is usually okay until around Canary Wharf when it all goes to pot. Other than that, not got too much new gear to test it today. I've got my usual club vest, saw vest, and it's my decathlon shorts, panda socks. Fueling strategy is a bit different today because I've got to carry my phone with me in case I get some very exciting and urgent news from my wife, which will be a little bit early, but still got to carry the phone just in case I need to jump the barricade and head away from the marathon very quickly. So that means I'm taking one fewer soft flask. Normally I carry 3 250ml soft flasks of Morton's 320 drink mix. I'm just going to take 2 of those this time so I can free up the front pocket in the shorts I'm wearing for my phone, and then I'm going to carry a couple of extra gels instead. So it's Morton gels, Morton drinks. Usual fueling strategy, take something every 5k, starting with a caffeine gel early on to get that into the system, and then either half a soft flask or a gel every 5k thereafter. Worked well before with 3 soft flasks. I think it'll be okay with 2 and some more gels. We'll see today. So that's it. Hopefully head out feeling fairly comfortable around kind of 6 minute miles, 3:44k pace for the first half. See what happens second half. Run hard, test the shoes, have a good time. It's London. It's all about having a good time.
The Platts are in and it is like 12 hours to London, and I don't know, I think I'm as ready as I can be. I'm all packed, I'm all ready to go, and here's my kind of pre-race video about what's to come. Race-wise, I don't know what to expect. Training has been a really mixed bag. I've picked up a bit of a hip injury, so I haven't been able to do a lot of long runs. I have used the Runner app, which I've really enjoyed. I've done that for 16 weeks and I really have enjoyed training with that. So hopefully all those runs will pay off. I had COVID at the beginning of the month and I feel like that sapped a lot of air from my lungs. So I'm hoping for the best tomorrow, but I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. And we'll just see what happens, My race plan is to start a little bit easier, get to Cutty Sark, see how I'm feeling, and then go from there. But not be too, I run because I love running. I'm not really driven by times, but I think because of that, I'm quite a lazy runner, so I tend to hold myself back a bit. So I'm going to try and push myself if my body feels ready, and if it doesn't, just have a great day out. Last time I did London was 2021 when we'd just come out of lockdown, and I think I had this whole feeling the whole way around, like, oh my God, remember when we couldn't go outside? Remember when we couldn't leave the house? And I kind of want to recreate that tomorrow because that I had the best race and the best day, and I'm hoping for the same tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Kit wise, I'm going to use the Forerunner 965. I've had this on my wrist for about a month and I do love it. I've chosen this over my Phoenix because of the brighter screen and because hopefully the GPS is as good as Garmin says and won't cut out on Cutty Sark. I plan on using the all-important lap button and just lapping my watch every mile. I do that every marathon because you always run further than a marathon, don't you? And I think it kind of helps me stay on track. That said, I did a PB in March, I think, when I was testing the 265 and it was in kilometres. I run in miles. I had no idea and I just ran for feel. So Kieran was saying to me earlier in the week, just take the watch off and just don't look at it. But I don't know. I think I'm too prangy for that. Shoe-wise, I'm going to run in the New Balance Fuel Cell SC Elite V3. These are the London edition. I've done a lot of my speed sessions in these So I've, the white versions, these are the London version. I always found that they come up really small. So I've sized up half a size. I've done most of my training in a size 5. These are a 5.5, and they definitely feel a lot roomier, a lot better. And I feel confident running in them, as confident as you can be. Hopefully they will, help me get across the line and feel happy at the end. But yeah, I will see you all on the other side.
Oh, so it's a 2:33:37. I am absolutely made up with that. I really surprised, shot myself. Well, just delighted how that went. Did a steady 1:18 first half with my mate, and then I thought, well, I'll try and run a 1:15 here, and I ran like a 1:15:01 second half, fading quite a lot at the end there, but really felt surprisingly good second half. So many people I knew on the course, just the most fun. It's just the most fun out there, London Marathon. Shoes were fantastic. I really liked them today. They were just perfect. That level of support and cushioning at the end there kept me ticking over whilst being really light when I was really shuffling at the end, and just picking them up a little bit. They felt really good. So yeah, everything went pretty nicely today. Watch is solid. I'll check out the GPS at home. Really pleased all round. Going to go find my wife, who has not given me a call halfway through the marathon, so that's all good as well. And I'll check back in later.
So it's done. Here we are, 2 days later. Medal in hand, complete. I actually ran a PB, so I think all those nerves and all that, I'm not sure what to expect, probably did me good. I didn't know what to expect, and came out with 3:38. I hoped for 3:45, did 3:38. So super chuffed with that. I ran a lot harder than I'd ever really run before. I think I'm quite afraid of being in pain, and I think I have always been quite tentative and backed off as soon as it hurt in a marathon. But I think marathons hurt no matter how quick you're running, and I kind of just leant into it, went for it, held on as long as I could, and was really surprised. But good race, enjoyed it, loved the crowds, feel okay today, so I think that's a good sign. Kit wise, I was fine with the shoes. They did give me a bit of a blister, but I think any shoe over a marathon is going to kind of rub your feet a little bit. And it was really wet. It rained a lot, and I think it kind of started raining probably at about 9 a.m. and my wave was 10:17. So I was probably stood getting wet for about an hour and 17 minutes before I even started running. So by then the shoes were wet. And then to kind of start with, one of the things about the SC Elite is that they're really lightweight. They've got that lightweight upper. So there's not a lot, once the upper's wet, your socks are wet. And then to start running with wet feet, and then 3 hours and 38 minutes later, of course you're going to have a blister. But that's fine, it didn't bother me on the run. It's just afterwards. So, fine. Still rate the shoes. Still think they're great. I think I know that they're not as aggressive as a rocker as the Vaporfly, but for me, I didn't really notice that. They definitely, had enough responsiveness and enough pop on race day to kind of keep me ticking over when my legs were getting tired. Watch wise, still love the 965, and this is a user error, not a Garmin error. But every marathon I do, obviously you reach the mile marker before you're at the mile marker because you're weaving people, you're not on the blue line. So I always lap my watch every mile, just so I kind of know even though I wasn't really going for a time yesterday, I just kind of know what pace you're actually doing that mile in. But to do that, you have to turn auto lap off, and this idiot didn't do that. So obviously my watch is buzzing when it thinks I've run a mile, and then I'm trying to auto lap it. It was a mess. I've got 31 splits on my Strava of yesterday's run. So obviously if you're going to use the auto lap, remember to if you're going to lap it yourself, turn the auto lap off. Don't be an idiot like me. But saying that, of course, I think it kept GPS when I look at my splits from my bib. chip thing. They're pretty similar. I think that coming out of Canary Wharf bit, what is that, probably mile 20, it was absolutely bonkers then. It was a lot shorter than a mile. I think it said I'd done 0.75 of a mile and I was doing a 9-minute mile, and I'd actually run an 8:22 minute mile. So do you know what I mean? It was, but I've never found a watch that doesn't do that. But for the rest of Canary Wharf, it was fine. It was just that little bit. So still happy with the watch. Completely my fault. Kept charge. I charged it to 100% overnight, so unplugged it marathon morning, and I'm at 78% now. And that's for, you know, being on GPS mode for 4 hours and having it on my wrist all day. So pretty impressive. Still really rate it. Liked having it on my wrist. Super bright. The other bit of kit I have to mention, it's my trusty visor. When I saw that the forecast was for rain, I didn't mention this before in the video because I wasn't sure whether I was going to wear it, because I had it in my kit bag and I thought if it starts to rain, I wear contact lenses. I hate having rain on my face, and I feel like, you know, if you rub your eye and you've got contacts and then that pops out, what are you going to do in a marathon? So I packed this in my bag, and I've talked about this before, so I'm sorry if I'm being boring talking about it again. It's not even a running visor, it's from Crew Room, so I think it's probably for rowing, but I just absolutely love it. It's got a super deep kind of, it's quite a deep peak, so it really covers your head, and you know, I find it more comfortable than wearing a hat. And I think for a woman, if you've got a ponytail or you put your hair in a bun and then you've got to worry about a hat, I just prefer having a visor on. And it, again, I've done 2 marathons in this now, and I wore it again, and I kind of went out thinking, if this annoys me, I'm just going to chuck it. But I couldn't have chucked it. I love it. So this was my other piece of kit. Swear by it. Crew Room Airhead visor, I guess, but love it. So that's my kit, that's my race. Super happy, super tired, hoping my lower back recovers soon.
So it's Monday morning, the day after the London Marathon. I was just a little bit too wrecked yesterday to film anything then, but it was just the best day out. I don't know if the crowds were even better than normal yesterday, but it just felt amazing the whole way around. It was constantly just huge noise. You know, some people in the crowd I might recognise, always something to look out for and get distracted by and spurred on by. Like, it's not just the big hitting moments like Tower Bridge and Cutty Sark. It's even like the whole kilometre before that was just like sucking you in and drawing you in, especially towards Tower Bridge. It was really fantastic. Just a fantastic day, and the race went better than I possibly could have expected. Did that fairly controlled first half, was feeling good, and then thought, oh, I'll kick on from 20 to 25 on field and just see what 5k split, what pace turns out, and I'll try and hold that. And it was just a bit faster than expected, probably a little bit too fast. Didn't quite hold that pace from then on, but did manage to hold a pretty good pace to run the second half in, I think, 1:15:01. Really pleased with that on legs that haven't got a lot of miles in them. When I hit 24k in the marathon, it was a little bit of a moment like going, okay, I haven't run this far for a couple of months now, for 4 months, 5 months. So let's see how this goes from here. And just, had a fantastic time. Felt pretty good, quite deep into the race. And obviously the advantage of feeling good deep into the race is that you can really enjoy that atmosphere even more, even if you are still really falling apart down the embankment and onto Birdcage Walk. But brilliant day, great race. Conditions were very, very wet in the first half, but it didn't really spoil anything, and it was just really good fun out there. Testing then. So the Vaporfly was brilliant. Like, it was what I was expecting from it, really. Like, I obviously raced in the Vaporfly 2, my PB's in the Vaporfly 2, and I was hoping this would just give me a little bit more support and protection. It's obviously a little bit hard to compare across marathons when I've gone for it from the off, like in Berlin, whereas yesterday I didn't quite do that, but I was just as wrecked at the end. Like, one of the things I wanted to do in the second half, certainly as I kicked on from 20 to 25, was ensure that I was wrecked at the end. So I wanted to see how those shoes felt when, you're in the final stages of a marathon and you're just staggering through, and they felt really good. Like, I've got enough protection there, it was pretty comfortable. I think probably a little bit more comfortable in the Vaporfly in those final few K, just helping you keep going a little bit more, but they're still very light and nimble. So when I really go into shuffle mode at the end of a marathon, my cadence gets really high, and they really help just pick up the feet still. Like, even as my stride length shortens, you can still keep turning over. And if you've got that slightly more elongated stride, you are going to get enough bounce from them for sure to keep powering down the final few kilometers of the marathon. I'd say you probably still get that a bit more booming bounce from the big shoes like the Alphafly and the Adios Pro 3. I think they are still delivering a bit more forward propulsion, but You are getting enough of that from the Vaporfly, you're not lacking on that front, and I think it will suit some runners more who prefer the slightly lighter feel, certainly, and that that increased turnover you get from it. So yeah, I really loved them yesterday. Going forward, they'll probably be my top pick for any race. I'm really going hard for a PB I've put in the training. That probably won't be for a while in the marathon. I've got some other things to get on with in life, but yeah, really enjoyed them yesterday. Great shoes, pretty much what you'd expect from them, really. Then the Forerunners, both very, very steady Eddie, very reliable throughout the race. They logged pretty similar distances overall. The GPS splits were pretty good. I was taking splits every 5K, and they were all, distance was pretty good in all of them. One was slightly wrong where I took the split at the marker, and actually the mats were a little bit before the marker, so that threw off that one and the next split a little bit. And then Canary Wharf is a complete nightmare. So like I say, this is multi-band GPS. This is as good as it gets. You can see for most of the race, they're very precise, got running almost overlapping each other as they cabin on the right side of the road. Very few weaves into shops and all that. Not very many of them at all throughout the race, but then Canary Wharf, nightmare, all over the shop. You just can't get good GPS there. It doesn't matter how good the technology is. You kind of got to ignore it. You nearly always get one very fast K and one quite slow K around there, I found, in the London Marathon. And that was the same on both watches. You've either got to get some kind of app that corrects distance or manual split the London Marathon, just because that Canary Wharf section will completely throw your GPS at a time when you're already quite tired and really struggling to keep an eye on your pace is going to be. A couple of tunnels in the second half as well. But yeah, overall, the GPS in these was great. Like, very useful for pacing the first. They ran probably slightly long on every single 5K split, but yeah, kind of 30 meters, 40 meters, that kind of thing, and you can still use it for pacing. Just maybe add a second or two on to your overall lap pace for that 5K split. So no concerns with either of them. I'd say it was a complete wash between them on GPS. Like the 265 actually had closer to the overall race distance, but very marginally. So the multiband is great across the Garmin range. They both, and I had set their marathon distance on both, and they kind of hit that. I got the alert saying I'd hit the distance just as I was rounding onto the mall underneath Buckhouse. So yeah, very close to the overall distance overall. Very useful for pacing. No problems with them. Battery life, you get a bit more drop off on the 265 as you'd expect. So as I'm sitting here now, that's 2 nights and the marathon day. I've got 65% on the 265 and 76% on the 965. It does drop off a fair bit quicker. I think overall my testing is looking at about kind of 4 or 5 days on the 265, more like 7 on the 965. We'll talk more about that in full reviews, obviously, but they're going to get you through the marathon. You don't have to necessarily charge them the night before and really worry about it. If you are going to listen to music, that would be more of a concern. I'd charge them, the night before, maybe top them up in the morning, but you will still be fine even if you're running out there for 4 or 5 hours using music and the screen and everything. But they obviously do drop off a little bit more than the Garmin's with memory and pixel displays, but no concerns about it for lasting a marathon. Also, it's quite interesting that you obviously get all the running technique stats on these watches, even if you don't have a Garmin sensor attached to them. So I was using a Polar chest strap for the race yesterday, and if I go into Garmin Connect, I'm still getting things like vertical oscillation, ground contact time, all that. It's quite interesting to see how they change when you run, progressing, in theory, the pace in the second half, and how some of those stats change quite a lot for me. So that was quite interesting, although Canary Wharf does ruin a few of them because obviously it can't really get a fix on distance very well. And then, yeah, a slightly updated fueling strategy was all good as well. I'm still very, very committed to using all Morton products for the marathon. It does really work well. So instead of having 3 soft flasks of drinks, I had 2 and some gels, and I did caffeine gel at 5K, and then half a 250ml soft flask of the 320 drink mix at 10 at 15, gel at 20, drink mix 25, 30, gel at 35. Felt very good. Obviously, it'd be interesting to see how that would work out for me in a full marathon, going at it from the off, because my heart rate was fairly controlled in the first half and maybe wasn't burning through resources quite as quickly, but certainly felt just as knackered at the end, and I did feel very nicely fueled throughout. So maybe I can lop off one of those soft flasks I've been carrying each marathon and just use 2 and a few more gels. So yeah, everything I tested was great yesterday. Race was great. Had a lovely time. London Marathon for the win. I still think there are faster courses. Valencia and Berlin are faster courses. I enjoy those probably more for pure speed, but I have not yet encountered anything with the atmosphere of London, although I've not done New York, which I imagine is pretty good too. So that's our London Marathon race video review, I guess, race test. Jump to the comments if you ran the race. How did you have a good time? Let us know how it all went for you. Thank you so much for all the support out on the course from everyone I know and people I don't know necessarily. That was really nice. Every time you have my name, it just gives you a really big lift, and it was just great to speak to some people after the race as well. Massive well done to Jane. Absolutely ridiculous splits. If you can see Jane's splits in the app, they're metronomic. It's the best pacing I've seen from anyone probably at the marathon. So yeah, well done everyone who did the race. We will see you soon for another video, and have a good rest of the day.